What if I told you that everything you are seeking is already seeking you, but the only reason it hasn't found you is because your belief system keeps sending it to the wrong address? You see, your beliefs are the coordinates that instruct your life where to go. They are not passive ideas, they are instructions, they are commands. And whether you are aware of it or not, your life has been executing the code of your belief system since the day you were born. The question is not whether belief is working, the question is, what have you been believing? Most men never stop to examine the program running their lives. They don't realize that the thoughts they rehearse every day are not facts, but interpretations. And most of those interpretations were formed in fear, scarcity, or survival. But I am here to challenge that programming. I am here to tell you that if you want to create a new life, you do not need more time, more money, or even more education. You need new belief. Because once belief changes, the entire universe must begin reordering itself around that decision. Belief is the architect of experience. You don't see the world as it is, you see the world as you are. And if you want to see different results, you must become a different observer. You must build a new lens, a new mental environment, a new set of internal instructions. And that building process begins the moment you declare, I will no longer accept a life that contradicts my vision. Because here's the truth, plain and unshakable. Your results are always loyal to your beliefs. No more, no less. If your belief says you are average, you will never live beyond mediocrity. If your belief says you are always behind, you will never catch up. If your belief says you must struggle for every ounce of success, then struggle will be the only teacher you ever know. But when your belief evolves, when it starts saying, I am called to lead, I am built to win, I am already enough, your world starts to reflect those declarations. This is not theory, this is law. I have watched men with less education, fewer connections, and limited resources outperform men who had every advantage because their belief was superior. I have watched men rise from obscurity to influence, not because they were the smartest, but because they were the most certain. And that's what belief is. Certainty, it is the ability to move without needing proof, to act without needing consensus, to walk like it's done, even while others are waiting for signs. And I am telling you now, the moment you start believing differently, your future begins bending in your direction. You don't have to fight for everything, you just have to align. Alignment is when your thoughts, words, actions, and habits all reflect your deepest belief. When you believe you are worthy of wealth, you stop sabotaging opportunities. When you believe you are worthy of love, you stop settling for dysfunction. When you believe you are worthy of success, you stop apologizing for your ambition. Belief upgrades your standard, and your standard shapes your life. But let me be clear, belief is not a sentence, it is a system. You must install it, feed it, strengthen it. That is your work now. You must stop rehearsing the narrative of defeat. Stop saying things that contradict your power. Stop agreeing with stories that keep you bound. Your belief must be fed daily, just like your body, through affirmation, through meditation, through deliberate, intentional repetition, because your mind does not hold on to what you heard once. It holds on to what you hear over and over again. Your self-talk is the music your subconscious dances to. Change the soundtrack, and you change the steps. And when your inner rhythm changes, your outer world has no choice but to follow. This is not a motivational trick. This is a neurological truth. Your belief literally reshapes your brain. Neuroplasticity proves it. What you believe over time becomes what you expect. And expectation is magnetic. When you believe differently, people notice, not because you're louder, but because your presence has changed. You walk into rooms and shift the temperature. You speak and people lean in, not because of volume, but because of vibration. People may not know what changed, but they feel it because belief is felt. It shows up in posture, in silence, in eye contact, in decisions. The man who believes differently carries a frequency that others recognize even if they don't understand it. And this, my friend, is where most men miss it. They try to change their lives by rearranging their circumstances when the real power lies in rearranging their beliefs. You cannot change the fruit without changing the root. Your finances are rooted in belief. Your health is rooted in belief. Your confidence, your communication, your capacity to lead, all of it begins in what you believe to be true about yourself. And here's the most important question you can ask yourself today. What would change if I actually believed that success was inevitable for me? Not hoped, not wished, but believed. How would you walk? How would you prepare? Who would you stop trying to impress? Who would you stop chasing? What nonsense would you stop tolerating? And what masterpiece would you finally begin to build? That shift, that internal unlocking, is the whole game. Because the world is not waiting to hand you something. The world is waiting to mirror you. It is waiting to respond to the man you've decided to become. And once that decision is made, once belief is no longer negotiable, everything else becomes easier. Your clarity increases. Your fear dissolves. Your hesitation evaporates, because you are no longer trying to believe, you are belief. And the world cannot argue with that kind of energy. It doesn't question it. It obeys it. You don't have to prove anything when your belief is anchored. You don't need applause when your identity is aligned. You don't need shortcuts when your mind is fortified, and you certainly don't need to beg for blessings when you've already built the internal foundation that welcomes them. The man who believes differently does not chase outcomes. He magnetizes them. He becomes the kind of man who is impossible to ignore. So now, the invitation is in front of you. Not to try harder, not to hustle more, but to believe more intelligently, to think higher, to decide more intentionally, and to accept finally and fully that the way you believe is the way you live. If you believe you're powerful, you stop waiting for permission. If you believe you're blessed, you stop complaining. If you believe you're chosen, you stop explaining. You start owning your pace, owning your presence, owning your process, because belief turns the invisible into structure. It turns vision into blueprint. It turns identity into execution. And that, more than anything, is what separates the dreamers from the doers. Dreamers wish, doers believe. And that belief becomes action, structure, rhythm, result. I am not here to tell you to try harder. I am here to remind you, you are already enough. But you must believe it before the world will reflect it. You must walk like the man who knows. Speak like the man who builds. Live like the man who carries the fire. And when you do, when you truly believe that reality must respond to the man you are becoming, then you no longer need to chase breakthroughs. You become one. And from that posture, the entire universe bends. Not because it's being nice, but because it's simply following orders. Believe differently, and your reality will obey. Now that you understand belief is not a wish but a command, not a feeling but a force, you must ask yourself, what have I been commanding up to now? Because whether you knew it or not, every belief you've held, every thought you've repeated, and every phrase you've accepted has been instructing your life. Some of those instructions served you. Many of them didn't. But today, that changes. Because today, you no longer live by default. You begin living by design. And belief is how you design. It starts as a whisper, a choice to think differently for 5 seconds. Then it becomes a decision, a declaration, and soon it hardens into identity. And once it becomes identity, you stop thinking about it, you start being it. The man who believes he is strong doesn't talk himself into discipline every day, he simply lives it. The man who believes he is worthy doesn't try to earn respect from others. He commands it silently without ever needing to speak. And the man who believes he is destined for greatness does not flinch when pressure rises, because he already decided that pressure was part of the plan. You must become that man. But becoming that man means unlearning the lies that once kept you safe. It means letting go of the story that says you need more time, more credentials, or more validation before you act. It means deleting the script that tells you you're too old, too broken, too late, or too underprepared. Those are not truths. They are mental cages. And if you don't burn them, they will bury you. They will rob you the future that already belongs to you. Belief is the match. Light it. Burn the cage. Then walk out. Walk out with posture, with rhythm, with vision. Walk out as the man who decided to own his life again, not because everything outside changed, but because everything inside did. And once the inside changes, you are no longer a slave to external conditions. You no longer panic when something doesn't go your way. You no longer beg for stability because you are the stability. You are grounded in belief, and that kind of man cannot be moved. Let the winds of life blow. Let the storms come. The rooted tree does not fear the storm. It bends, it sways, but it does not break. And neither will you, not when you are rooted in truth. And belief, when properly installed, becomes truth. Not because the facts prove it, but because you decided that it is. Belief is not about proof, it's about decision. And decision creates energy. Energy creates momentum. Momentum becomes movement. Movement becomes evidence. And soon, the world begins showing you what you already knew was true inside. That's the great secret. Results are always late to the party. They follow belief. They lag behind confidence. They are the reward for the man who dares to lead without applause. Who dares to build before the crowd gathers? Who dares to speak truth when it's still unpopular? That is the work of leaders. And if you are listening to this, it is because you were born to lead. Now, leadership begins with belief not in others, but in yourself. Because the man who does not lead himself will never earn the right to lead anyone else. If your belief is still tied to your past, your progress will always be slow. If your belief is still tethered to approval, you will never rise above the noise. But if your belief is tied to vision, to calling, to purpose, then you are a man who cannot be delayed. Your speed is not determined by what's around you, it's determined by what's inside you. If you believe the path will open, you walk with confidence even when you don't see it yet. If you believe the resources are coming, you stop shrinking your plans to match your pockets. If you believe that doors will open, you keep knocking not once but relentlessly until the right one swings wide. And when it does, you don't hesitate. You don't question your worth. You don't pause and wonder, am I ready? Because belief has already decided that you are. Your belief goes ahead of you. It clears the road. It secures the opportunity. It removes the resistance in your mind first, then in your life. Let me say this again. Your reality will always obey the strongest instruction it receives. And that instruction does not come from your voice. It comes from your consistency, from your energy, from your movement. And if your movement screams faith while your voice whispers fear, the universe will follow your movement. So don't worry if your words shake at first. Let your actions speak. Let your habits roar. Let your decisions be louder than your doubts. This is how a man rewrites his story, not by begging the past to change, but by commanding the future with every step he takes in the present. Do not underestimate the power of belief installed with repetition. It is not just mental, it becomes neurological, chemical, biological. It changes your focus, it alters your mood. It rewires your ability to bounce back. And over time, you become emotionally immune to setbacks that once destroyed you. You no longer react from fear, you respond from faith. Because your belief is not situational. It is internalized. It lives in your breathing. It shows up in your silence. It commands respect without ever needing to be announced. That is the man belief creates. And that is the man you are becoming if and only if you guard your belief with your life. Let no one speak into your future if they've never seen the size of your vision. Let no one dilute your focus just because they cannot handle your intensity. Let no one interrupt your discipline because they are allergic to progress. If your belief system has been upgraded, then your boundaries must reflect it. Your standards must reflect it. Your energy must reflect it. Because a man who believes differently must live differently. No more double-mindedness. No more hoping on Sunday and doubting on Monday. No more agreeing with fear during the week and trying to pray it away on the weekend. You must become one with your belief. Speak it, think it, act it, build with it, breathe with it, become it. And then and only then does reality begin to mirror it back to you, not as an occasional miracle, but as a consistent, predictable law. So now, here's the final shift you must make today. Stop asking, is this belief working? And start asking, am I working the belief? Because the belief system doesn't fail, the believer does. Not out of weakness, but out of inconsistency. And inconsistency is a symptom of confusion. You want clarity. Anchor belief to behavior. Wake up and follow through. Keep your word to yourself. Align your schedule with your calling. Live like the man who already knows the harvest is guaranteed. That clarity will kill confusion. That consistency will drown out doubt. And soon the man who once wavered becomes the man others come to for direction. Why? Because he believed. Not casually, not occasionally, but completely. And that kind of belief cannot be ignored. It speaks through results. It shouts through presence. It manifests in silence, and it becomes the foundation upon which empires are built. So take this truth into your bones. There is nothing more powerful than a man with aligned belief. Not because he forces the world to change, but because the world has no choice when faced with the authority of a man who no longer doubts. Believe differently, and your reality will obey. There will come a time when your belief is so deeply anchored that the world no longer surprises you with its blessings. You stop calling it luck. You stop calling it coincidence. You simply nod and say, this was always supposed to happen. Why? Because your belief preceded the evidence. And the man who believes in advance is always the first to reap what others doubted could be sown. That is the secret no one talks about. Most men are waiting to see before they believe. But the Master knows you must believe before you see. You must walk like the man who already owns it. You must lead like the man who's already proven it. You must act like the man who knows his presence alone is enough to shift an entire room, because belief makes that true. And when you truly believe, deeply and habitually, the delays no longer shake you. The silence no longer discourages you. The resistance no longer deters you, because you've built a life that doesn't bend under pressure. It bends pressure. You no longer react to life, you create it. You no longer flinch at uncertainty. You welcome it as training, because belief teaches you that the unknown is not your enemy, it's your expansion ground. You begin to think in years instead of days. You begin to trust your preparation more than you trust your panic. You begin to walk into rooms where you once felt small and realize, I belong here not because of what I've done, but because of what I've decided. And that decision, the one to believe differently, becomes the turning point in your life. Not a motivational high, not a temporary push, but a permanent pivot. The day your belief stopped being optional, the day you declared, I will no longer entertain fear, confusion, or doubt as part of my personal economy, the day you rewrote your internal laws. And from that moment, your external reality began falling into place, whether instantly or eventually, but always inevitably. You see, inevitability is the language of belief. The man who doubts says, maybe. The man who wishes says, I hope. But the man who believes says, it's done. He speaks with finality, with fire, with focus. He doesn't ask the world to validate him. He validates himself through consistent execution. And his results speak in the language the world always understands, evidence. If you want evidence, don't wait for it, become it. Wake up with purpose, move with clarity, speak only what aligns. Let your habits become a testimony. Let your work become a sermon. Let your presence become a prophecy of what belief looks like in human form. That kind of man becomes a magnet. He draws people, he draws wealth, he draws impact. Not because he chased it, but because he became it. And he became it because he believed. Let this truth echo inside you now. Your belief is your identity. If you believe you are a creator, you stop complaining. If you believe you are powerful, you stop procrastinating. If you believe you are chosen, you stop chasing people who do not see your value. You're